Hi, I'm Liz Silvester, and today I'm going to be talking about my time at Liberty, London, the world-famous department store. For the last 4.5 years, I have been head of creative and looked after the brand, designing all of its brand campaigns, its interiors, and its world-famous windows. I have been tasked over those 4 years to actually come up with a new concept for Liberty and bring it back to life. So I've got hundreds of slides. I am going to go through them quite quickly, but I hope that I give you a little piece of my brain in how I've worked that out through some research that I've done, through my experience and time of training as an artist, working as a retailer, working as a visual merchandiser, but designing essentially for Liberty what it is today. Firstly, I want to talk to you about what Liberty is, if you don't know what Liberty is. It's a department store in central London, in Soho. It's probably one of the oldest. It was built in 1875. It's an old Tudor building. I'd like to explain very briefly what the brand is, just so you get a flavour. As a creative in this industry, the first thing that you need to understand is the brand that you're dealing with and get right inside it. So this is the black and white department store. It actually came second to Liberty. Arthur Liberty opened a silk shop on Regent Street and then expanded to take over all of Regent Street, and then the Tudor building came second to that. He built the black and white Tudor building, which some people still think is Tudor. It's actually not. It's a mock Tudor building. Liberty is and always has been both rooted in tradition and fearlessly avant-garde. This is its central atrium. And this is what it was like when it first opened. This flawless curatorial eye continues to define Liberty in the brands that they handpick, the companies that they collaborate with, and the artists and craftspeople that they champion. I've worked with brands like Acne, very, very British brands like Dr. Martens, but essentially, Liberty is a curator and a creator. The discerning tastemaker, Arthur Liberty, who founded the company with a determination to shape the fashions and styles of the day. At the heart of the brand is the vast library of prints, all of which are distinctively and unmistakably Liberty. Super, super old campaign from the 1950s, but then a very current campaign, probably from the 1990s, where Liberty is used by Tim Walker. Liberty has its own brand products, and the Liberty print has, for all of these years since it's been known, been all over many of its products. While their logo and identity may have changed over the years, and you can see how it began in 1875 to how it is now, Liberty London. It has been Liberty & Co. It has been Liberty of London. It's been Liberties, lots of different things. But today it's Liberty London. A lot of brands, particularly international brands, Burberry, to name one of them, they use London under the title, and that sends them all over the world. The culture and the philosophy and values remain the same. British, colour, design, pattern, and unexpected. Liberty is the chosen resort of the artistic shopper, Oscar Wilde, and that for me was one of the most important phrases that Liberty gave me to bring back to the customer. I think department stores today have become, over time, just roads within a building. They are one brand after the other, just building L-shaped departments that actually are really, really boring. And I think one of the things that I was stuck with when I got Liberty as a building was, A, it was a beautiful heritage building, but B, the whole building had been covered up. It had been covered up by stud walls, it had been covered up by aging brand shop fronts that actually sort of on top of each other just became boring to walk around. They didn't have any connection to the building and its heritage and its values. So It took me 5 years to get rid of it all, but I'm just going to tell you a little story and through visuals of how I did that. One of the things to remember is that I was faced with a problem is that it wasn't a problem, but it was a task to resolve, was combining the department store and Liberty, the brand itself. Because Liberty has a number of own brand products, but it's also 50% of its business is the fabric business. It produces amazing printed fabrics, but it's also the world famous department store. It's celebrated in media all over the world. And you can see here just the breadth of the own brand product that they have. So sitting at the top of the tree is their most luxury item, which is called BIFEX, which is the luxury SLGs, the leather handbag, the wallet, the silk scarf still remains at the top of the tree for them. But in any luxury brand, you have that sits right at the top of it. So LVMH does the same. So my task, and I want to just talk you through my agenda at the beginning, and then we're going to quite quickly go through a lot of imagery to hopefully explain how I got there. So really, my agenda and my brief, when I started 4.5 years ago, was to create the House of Liberty, because it didn't exist as a house anymore. So my agenda was to bring back Liberty print across the store environment, to rebrand the Liberty building and the brand, utilizing the rich heritage, the reintroduction of the aesthetic movement, and I'll talk a little bit about that today, because what I believe that we have now is a new age aesthetic movement in what we have in interiors, in our lifestyle, in the places that we, private members clubs, in the shopping environment. But I think it's important to create a rich, beautiful environment for our customers to shop in. Integrate own brands with external brands and mix categories across all departments. That's really, really key, and I think if you're a successful department store today, you are doing that. So that means that you're mixing stationery with knickers, you're mixing printed blouses with hats, you're mixing it all together, but you've got to do it very, very cleverly to entice the customer to shop it all at the same time. Sorry, I've missed a couple of points off there. Multi-category display for the future. Introducing Liberty print to all brand campaign identities. So what I mean by that is that Liberty print is on its own products, it's on its fabrics, but it needs to be integrated into the brand. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that, and hopefully I'll show you through some visuals in the way that we started to drip feed it in. You can't change a department store or change a brand immediately. You have to do it in stages. You have to start to drip in lots of little ideas and test them. See whether they work. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I'm going to show you some of the things that we did. Introduce local lifestyle retail independence to the department store model was really, really important to me, because I moved to London when I was 21. I'm 39 now. Spent most of my life in East London. But the retail department store, as I said at the beginning, has become very, very boring, very, very flat, very, very white, very minimalist. But I think as you sort of look at fashion and look at the influences and see why I sort of made the changes that I did, you'll get a better idea of it. So just to give you a starting point, I would research everything and take inspiration, yes, from other fashion designers, other retailers, but open your eyes, have a look at what everybody else is doing. So the most important thing for me to understand, Liberty has an archive of thousands and thousands and thousands of prints. They own that archive. They can go back into them. They have their own design house. They can rework them. So I needed to understand the prints and what they were. So there's some famous ones up there. You have IFIS, which has gone on to the accessories. And you have the famous feather, which is the icon of the aesthetic movement. William Morris obviously was famous for working with Liberty in the arts and crafts era, but if you look at today and what we'll look at the end of the presentation in terms of how print, particularly print, has become very, very important in fashion and interiors. So the aesthetic movement for me, and this is something that I still believe is happening, but we are arriving and celebrating it at the moment, is the aesthetic movement was a late 19th century movement that championed pure beauty and art for art's sake, emphasizing the visual and sensual qualities of art and design over practical, moral, or narrative considerations. I thought that was, for me, I've held on to that phrase, and I will probably for the rest of my life. It connects with who I am, what I believe in. But I think it's very, very relevant today in fashion and retail of what's going on. So who did I look at? So I think we started at the beginning of the day by looking at Gucci. So Alessandro obviously came in and took a minimalist brand and turned it into a maximalist brand. So it came from clean, nothing on the bag, beautiful brown leather bag with some nice gold accessories, and whacked a load of print on it, and some gold trims and some tassels and absolutely everything else. But he also put that in the store environment. One of my favorite designers in Italy is D'Amore Studio. Super, super sophisticated, but an incredible designer and use of color. So you'll see this inspiration come back into the design for the Liberty department store later on. Restaurant in Paris, D'Amore Studio. Milan Design Week, D'Amore Studio. So who's cool in London now who is a department store, but is a concept store? And what is a concept store? Dover Street Market, London, has been open 2.5, 3 years now, but I would say that it's probably one of the most exciting retail playgrounds that are there to have a look at. You've got brands like J.W. Anderson building a climbing frame to show fashion off. You have to push the boundaries and do something exciting, and all of this blends together. You've got, this is Dover Street, New York. You have a huge, amazing knitted column that goes through 2 floors of this building. But it is, you know, it is something unexpected. It's something that you wouldn't expect to be in the retail environment probably 5, 6 years ago. It's now celebrated and it's merged and it's blended. In the top corner, there's some really, really amazing use of furniture, but they're upcycled pieces of furniture turned into incredible fixtures for fashion. Goodhood, very good example of mixing stationery, ceramics with fashion. And then the store, Berlin Soho House. So they probably did it best first. The Soho House group interests me hugely. They're all over the world. But in Berlin, they obviously introduced the concept shopping store on the ground floor of a private members club. So you can go to the hotel, but you can also shop. English style, super important to me. So coming back to the Gucci campaign and just to see the things that, you know, these things are super relevant in influencing you as a creative and then how you put those back into your designs. So the Gucci campaign is incredibly interior. The use of color is unbelievable. Fashion illustration has become massively important in interiors and fashion over the last 5 years, but Gucci did it best first. Luke Edward Hall is probably the most famous illustrator and personalized artist that is working out of London today. He draws on ceramics, that's where he started, but now he is obviously illustrating tapestries for famous bars all over the world, creating applique drawings for major fashion houses. He is absolutely phenomenal. So there's 2 illustrators here that I used in Liberty that I used for their interior. So you'll see how I've introduced them into women's and menswear into the store environment. Stephen Doherty is a fashion illustrator, so we've used him to sort of draw all over the ceiling, and you'll see that later on as we go through the design. Very quickly, I just want to whiz through a couple of the other things so we can get to the store design process, and you can see the design pack in terms of how we've designed a concept department, how we started to drip feed the print into Liberty in lots of different ways. So one of my first projects is that for Liberty was celebrating its 140th birthday. So I thought, well, why not create, his birthday was in May. What could we make in May? We make a maypole. And that is a traditional dancing pole made of lots of different fabrics. But what do we make the maypole out of? We make the maypole out of 140 different Liberty prints. And then we suspended it in the central atrium, and it became a beautiful installation. In the windows, I tasked my team to wrap 140 different display items that then got filled with the windows all the way through. We wrapped ice cream vans in Liberty print. We wrapped telephone boxes in Liberty print. We started to collaborate with lower-end brands, but very, very successful brands like Uniqlo. We used Nick Knight, who is an incredible photographer, to shoot a Liberty campaign. We started to create editorial for all of the magazines using Liberty print, again in interiors. We started to create canapes for famous restaurants in London, introducing the Liberty print. One of the other things that I don't know if you're aware of, we did when I was there, we allowed Channel 4 to come in and film the Liberty department store and film all of us as a team. So there are 2 series, but what it does is it makes the world aware of the department store and what we are and what we're doing. But the print was embedded all the way through that, and the story of the print and the story of the brand. In creative events, and the opening of what you're doing is also very important. Every Christmas, we would open our Christmas windows in November. I was very lucky 2 years ago to have Kylie Minogue come and open them, and she absolutely adored them. But that drama, inviting people into the store environment to see the creative and see what's happening, was really, really important. Now, the Nutcracker was probably my last Christmas at Liberty, but you can see through here it was a collaboration with the Royal Opera House and the Royal Ballet. But what was important to bring into this was a collaboration between 2 very, very famous brands, the Royal Opera House being one, and the Royal Ballet, and Liberty the other. And the thing that we had to do together was tell the very nostalgic story of the Nutcracker, but embed it with Liberty print. And there are lots of different ways that you could do that. So the Liberty print, we went through thousands of them to choose the right prints to tell each of the different stories of the Nutcracker with. So there's about 3 or 4 different Liberty prints that make up the wallpaper within this window. All of the fretwork for the snow scene was created of Liberty print. Again, presents, the wallpaper, skirting boards, everything created with Liberty print. The moving fans in this window were created with the world-famous feather print, moving back and to, moving. But then it was important to bring the theatre into the building as well, so not just expressing it through windows, but also using the department store as an event space as well. So very successfully, this was just a very quick idea. We decided to, we asked the Royal Ballet, would you come and perform the Nutcracker in Liberty? And we turned it into a theatre. So the Nutcracker and the Royal Ballet came and danced. We built a sprung floor in the bottom of Liberty and danced the Nutcracker to open the celebration of the Christmas windows and the celebration of the Nutcracker campaign. Just another example of using print. We collaborate every year with Reba, and we celebrate young architects, and we invite young architects to design windows and campaigns with us. So again, the importance for me was for them to bring the print into the windows. So here you can see how the print has been dissected and made into 3D wallpaper. And parts of this installation were moving. And I'm sorry I don't have a video to show you how that happened. So moving on to the department stores, and we're going to talk about women's and menswear now. The home of the artistic shopper was probably a window scheme that actually launched the change of women's wear and menswear within Liberty. And this is where we started to bring that famous phrase from Oscar Wilde, Liberty, the home of the artistic shopper, together within a campaign. So we created different rooms: the courtyard, the kitchen, the bedroom, the attic. But these rooms were multi-category layered environments, layered with Liberty print, layered with external brands, layered with, but mixed together within those right categories. So you could tell these beautiful stories of the bedroom, which was made up of silks and cushions and throws and scents from beauty and perfumes all mixed together. The use of artists within all of these campaigns and making them feel personalized and genuine and real were really, really important as well. But it was important to use live and up-and-coming artists. So this is an artist called Luis Matzia, who drew within the windows, but then on the windows themselves. She also then created the online material that turned into these pages, but also very practically drew all of the windows onto the glazing herself. So the department concepts that we changed just before we go into the design of what I would like to get to today, over the 4.5 years that I was there, I refitted the entire building. And part of that was actually to drip feed in the Liberty print and bring back its heritage. So the beauty hall was where I started. It's the most successful area of Liberty. It's on the ground floor. But you can see how the Liberty print starts to come in. And you can see here, this is where we started to pull off all of the paneling and discover hidden windows, hidden paneling, hidden walls, secret doors. But it was important for Liberty to feel authentic and real to the customer, but also embedded in its heritage and print. The Interiors Emporium. Now you can see just at the bottom here, we worked with an amazing brand called Conservatory Archives, and the use of planting within retail today is super, super fashionable and is everywhere, all over East London. But I think for Liberty it was really, really big because we wanted to bring in a whole department to be able to do it. But adding in that live element made it absolutely beautiful and come to life. The importance of heritage furniture, the importance of the correct furniture, the importance of upcycling furniture and creating the right display mechanisms were really, really, really important to me, and they have been introduced all over Liberty. So just to talk about two main projects before we finish, menswear and women's wear. And this is the design pack for how menswear looks today in Liberty. And very quickly, at the beginning, it shows you how we work it out. So our first question is, who is the modern man? And who is the Liberty modern man? And I suppose you want to visually reference that. And this was our references. We want to create comfortable surroundings for him. And we also want to create an eclectic home. We want to mix old with new. We also want to create the House of Liberty. So this is where we started to, and this is a long-term project, so it's not a drip-feed project, is actually make it into a house. So we had the gallery, the study, the library, the east wing, the collector's room. And each of these areas have different identities. So you would create the identity for that man within that area, but there would be things that would blend in between. So we would choose the color palette, what areas of paneling we would pick out, whether we would introduce heritage or something new. If heritage was missing and we couldn't uncover it, we would put something back. So you can see like a wattle and daub paneling there, which is original arts and crafts paneling, where we took the walls down and we had nothing to put back. We needed to put heritage back into the building to make it feel genuine and real. Clever use of fixtures. Oriental rugs is part of Liberty's history. So how do you bring that into fixtures? The rug became inserted into the table as part of display. This is the design plan for the wattle and daub paneling going back into Liberty. And then you can see how we've started to layer in the print. It was really important at this stage and at the stage that we are now and what Liberty is now, that it was not just print, it was also integrated with all of the luxury brands that they purvey and show. So there will be multiple brands that would sit with that. So be some great fabrics from Jim Thompson, de Gournay, I could go on and on. The gallery, we've come back to the Demore studio image, was the most beautiful area, was the most high-end area of the Liberty men's department. And it's, I suppose, where most of our creative attention was applied. The illustrator worked here. The East Wing had this sort of approach of washed-out Martin Margiela walls, but also where there was timber that wasn't in very good condition, we decided to give it a new treatment and do something else to it. Palettes today that are interesting. You could be in Soho House in East London, or you could be in the Chiltern Fire Club. But I think those washed out textures, reversed prints were really important. So these are the sorts of palettes that we were starting to introduce and that are very, very relevant today. The sorts of chairs that we picked were obviously of the era of arts and crafts, or within the age of Liberty where it existed, but then they were recovered and reupholstered with print. So this is the space at the end. You can see the print introduced onto the chairs and onto the walls. Again, really important to me was the use of the acanthus William Morris print on the backdrop of the accessory wall. And then the women's wear design. We did 2 floors here, but just to give you a summary of where we ended up and the design that we finished with. Our references. The Great Hall, which was the most important hall which we created, which was we shifted the floors again, to bring super brands down to floor 1. And designed with our in-house designs team, one of the most amazing floral William Morris Liberty print giant rugs. Very, very unique and interesting use of fixtures was super, super important. So you can see sculptures in here with clothing hanging off, thinking outside of the box, but actually thinking within the relevance and heritage of Liberty, always as you went through this design process was inherent. So this is the grand hall at the end, once we'd finished, with the giant, beautiful Morris print rug. Brands like Dries van Noten integrated in, felt like they'd blended and felt like they'd been there forever. the use of illustration in shop fit and the use of illustration in the core of the design that you experience as you're shopping. And just a few relevant projects today that make me think that I had the right ideas or was taking the right influences, just to show you what's happening in London today. And this month, Annabelle's by Martin Brudinsky has reopened a very, very famous members club in London. It is printed, it is layered, it is maximalist, it is absolutely beautiful. It's going to the next level. Please look at it because it is probably the future. Soho House Television Centre, which is the most recent Soho House. You can see a giant floral print sunbed. The Ned, again, another huge Soho House project. William Morris, all over its headboards and draped behind it in curtains. And the super, super relevant famous brand Loewe that has used William Morris and acanthus as the core of their campaign and their future.